Okay, you can go start now.
Okay. Right. Well, good evening, and I hope UNISON members are joining us for this rather peculiar and strange members meeting with Kuldip Sahota, who is the Labour candidate for the Police and Crime Commissioner for West Mercia, and we're hoping that this evening will give an opportunity for UNISON members to ask questions of Kuldip and to get a clear understanding of his vision of the role that a Police and Crime Commissioner can carry out in West Mercia. Obviously, we've had a Conservative, and before that, an independent Police and Crime Commissioner. So it's an area that is now waiting for Labour to take control. And with no further ado, I will hand over to Kuldip and hope that you will find what he has to say interesting. We have a number of questions that have already been sent through to us, which I will ask Kuldip to answer at the end.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for the Unisons for organizing this gathering. I really appreciate that. And like I said to you, Charlie, I'm a GMB and a Unison man. So any help from the Unison would be greatly appreciated from there. What I got to do, Charlie, is a couple of minutes about my background and then my politics, and then we will take, down to the PCC on it. I think it's essential that the members who are, with us tonight, and I'm grateful to them, to know, who I am, what makes me tick. And Charlie, you know me from the West Midlands Regional Board for the last 15 years. I was even chair there, wasn't I, about 4 years?
Yeah.
Right. I've been in this country for about 55 years now. I was a lad or something. And after going to school here in Telford, and I started my life as apprenticeship in '69 in a GK, and it was one of those big engineering companies. They used to take, not many of them take them, but I'm of that age, apprenticeship was really, really something. And my dad used to work in the wheel shop there. It was quite a heavy job, actually. And when he found out that his son, me, got apprenticeship, boy, he was over the moon. And I said, he was going around buying drinks to all his Indian mates. I said, Dad, for God's sake, it's only apprenticeship. It's not exactly Oxford, is it? He said, son, Oxford is not for us. But there again, that was a different age. And the expectations were quite low. Having said that, but my dad's grandson did go to Oxford in 2001, became a medical, my younger brother's son. So there you go. But he died, my dad, 1976. So, it just, all those foundry work in the West Midlands and then here, it just kills you, mate, honey. So anyway, 15 years in there, and then I left and I went into business. And then after a few years, I joined the Labour Party in 96 or something, just to get rid of the Tories. And I didn't want to be an active member, but I just want to be sort of get rid of the Tories. And then, of course, you attend one meeting and they said, oh, just distribute these 100 leaflets, will you? And you got sucked into it. So this is how I, became a sort of active Labour Party member in, I don't know, 97 or something. Yes, and then 2000, I stood a couple of times for the borough, in one of those non-winnable seats, just to sharpen your teeth. And then eventually in 2001, in a by-election, I got one of those Labour seats, and I've been a councillor now for the last 20 years. 2001, 21. Yeah, that's it, 20 years now. And I've been all kinds of, done all kinds of things. I was even on the board of governors of the Wolverhampton University for 9 years. I was a leader of the council for about 5 years. And what else was I? West Mercia Police Authority for about 4 or 5 years. I was the chair of the Telford Region Policing Board for about 4 or 5 years. And just, when I sort of landed there in 2007 or 8, and there was this big thing going on, Operation Chalice, and it was all hush hush. And, I said, oh, please, so we got that right in the end, the abuse of the children and the younger women and so on. And that was quite a thing for me to handle as the chair of the Telford Region Policing Board. Anyway, so and I stepped down in 16 or 17, and I went for a parliament in Telford, and I lost by 700 votes, folks. And then that was really disappointing. I thought I was going to get in because of being a local chappie and a local councillor and a council leader and so on. So I didn't get it in. And then I thought I was gonna have another go at it 2 years later. But Labour Party in their wisdom decided that it should be all women shortlist. And my friend Katrina Gilman, I hope she's hearing me wherever she is, she was the one who, took on, but she was unsuccessful. And they put me in 2019 in Ludlow. And of course, that's Philip Dunn was quite I lost there again. And then they said, well, would you like to have a go at the PCC, the Police and Crime Commissioner? Before that, actually, I had put my name in. And so here I am after all these, that's just a few things I done in just a couple of minutes. Here I am, a Police and Crime Commissioner. I've been sort of following this around for the last 18 months. Oh, and one more thing. As a councillor, I'm on the Police and Crime panel. It's one of those, I'm from Telford. We scrutinizing and monitor the work of the present PCC, John Campion. So I every time I go there, I asked him a question. He always got upset. He seems to have a short fuse. He knew I was the candidate, and I would always ask a political question, and I would always take my Shropshire Star or some papers. I'll say, oh, what's this? Nightmare of night crimes getting worse and so on. And he'll lose his rag. He said, you're being political or something. But anyway, that organized Police and Crime panel is a toothless organization, a body which monitors and scrutinizes his work, because there's nothing we can do really. He can put up 10% precept or a council tax for the police, and we can say, no, you only want a 3% or 4%, but he just wouldn't listen to us on it. And of course, and I've been sort of, monitoring what he's been up to and so on, and keeping all my, it's not what I'm saying, it's what the paper said, Charlie. So whatever I say about him, I am a Labourer. Of course, they will say, oh, you're a Labourer, but it's not that. I always say, this was in the paper, and this is what the inspector, Her Majesty's inspector, independent, had said, and so on. So, I always take him to plain. So, right, my policies, so I've been doing it, like I said, creating my policies for the last, couple of years. One of the things I think I got to go on it is that this John Campion, he broke alliance with the Warwickshire Police, and I was on there, and he had to pay nearly £11 million as a compensation, what the local media had called a divorce settlement, really. I mean, that is a really, really waste of money. And when he did that about 2 years ago, he was criticized by Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary. He said, no, what you did wasn't right at all. And then he was criticized by a Conservative PCC in Warwickshire. He said, no, he wasn't right. And then Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, said, oh, wait a minute, you're going to hold this for 6 months. You can't do what you just done like. So it has gone through, but he was really, really criticized by just about everybody, and the newspapers as well. And David Jamieson, Labour PCC across the road in Birmingham, West Midlands, and he said he was really scathing about him. He said, in a bitter dispute like that between West Mercia and Warwickshire, only winners are the criminals. He said, he told him, he said, you want to take it easy, whatever you're going to do. But this man, he said, no, we are saving money. But, oh yeah, he was also criticized by the chair of the Police Federation of Warwickshire. I'm not too sure if somebody's here from Warwickshire, from the police as well. Simon Payne, his name was, I noticed it. And
Yeah.
he said, wait a minute, this was good thing. We were saving millions of pounds. And this was in the paper. Of course, I haven't spoken with Simon Payne. So he, you know, this gentleman, John Camp, he just, listen, he just carries on. He's very arrogant, you know, the hubris. And I told him that in one of the meetings. I said, John, you want to take things easy and whatever you are up to. And then he just loses his rag. He said, Councillor Sahota, you're being, you know, being political, and I've been put here by the people, and I can do whatever I like. So, you know, he virtually, you know, but last meeting, I just didn't attend at all because I knew the election was coming up and so on. So, and then not only that, he wants to take over the fire authority as well. And now the fire authority, everyone, is that just about everyone criticized him for that, including the police and crime panel. Now that police and crime panel, like I said, the one who's a toothless, is a Tory dominated. There's only myself and another Labour councillor on it, and 2 independent, and other 10 are, you know, Hereford and Shrewsbury and everywhere. It's a Tory dominated, and he just wouldn't listen to them. He said, why do you want to take over the fire authority? Why don't you make a good job just running the police? But no, he has ambitions to, you know, to go higher up somewhere. So he was criticized by the police and crime panel. He was criticized by all the town and parish councils and all the main principal councils like Telford, Wrekin, Shropshire, Hereford, and so on. Everybody, just about everybody, and police crime. Oh yes, in Shropshire there was a thing was done, what they call a survey, and 90% of the people were opposed to him taking over the fire authority. And I said to him, I said, John, if it's not broken, why fix it? Because the auditor said both fires, the Herefordshire and the Worcester and Shropshire one, they're well run and efficiently. They're value for money. Why do you want to take over? But he, like I said, he's not the listening Crown Commissioner. So this is what he's been doing. So what it is, my there you go. I got my list now. What it is basically, I got 5 pledges on my leaflet here, everyone, and they are. I will go slow, you know, through them, not sort of all in details, but you'll know what I mean. First one is more police focusing on the streets and tackling crime. In other words, get the police out there and ensure the police are, you know, out there, not behind the desk. And the third one is causes of crime and the provision of preventative. Now, as most of you would know, the government did a lot of cutting to the youth centers. And that in turn, when the kids are not hanging around the youth center playing their snookers and, you know, listening to the music, whatever they do, the youth center has been closed by the government in the last 10 years. So what happens? There isn't that preventative. So they sort of just go on and sort of do whatever they like out there. And that makes the job for the police even harder. Tougher sentences for rape and domestic. Now, at this moment, there is a bill going through a parliament, which is called sentencing and court and so on. It was debated last week and it went through. And what it is the sentencing isn't tough enough. I'm not saying that they should all be locked up and so on, but the stalkers get a shorter sentence than someone caught flying tipping. For flying tipping, it's about 5 years. But if you're a stalker or something, you only get about 6 months in a custody or something, which is not very good, actually. I'm not saying that I'm only in favor of it. And then also you get a harsher penalty for damaging a statue than attacking a woman. And that's something else. It's in the Labour papers, which I've been reading quite closely for the last. But one of the other things, which is mine and in here somewhere, is that the victims of crime, Charlie, because for the last 4 years, there's about 55,000 cases that's been held up in the courts, and the victims been waiting and waiting and waiting, and some of them just lose faith in the whole judicial and the justice system, and they say, oh, what the hell? And those victims of the crime, they're being let down by the government, by the PCC, and by the justice system. And I feel very, very strongly that the victims of crime should be, at the forefront of whatever happens on it. And before I sort of shut up and have some questions, Charlie, I got to go through when there was a Brexit referendum in 2016, and my wife has a shop, by the way, in town, and she was closing, and this was 2 days after the referendum, and a gentleman walked over to my wife. He said to her, I thought we voted to get rid of you, blank, blank, blank. What are you here like? And of course, poor my wife, she got upset. And then, and she came home and she was pretty upset. And I said, what happened? And then next day I reported it, because that is a crime. I hate crime. So the other thing I feel, that hate crime and homophobia is a crime, but misogyny should be crime as well, which that is not in that paper, the bill, which is going through the police as well. So I will be campaigning for a tougher sentences for domestic abuse, violence against women, and also for misogyny to be included as one of the crimes as well. So I think that's about 20 past now, really. I'm quite open. Anything you want to throw at me. I haven't covered everything. I did a radio chop show yesterday, Hereford and Worcester, for 1 hour, and I got all kinds of papers here. And I don't want to sort of. I have, by the way, written to John Campion about let's work together, whether you get in or I get in, to sort out to help the millions of victims are being failed every year. Either you get or I get. We will sort of make sure the victims are not let down. Of course, he never answered it for me. Right, Charlie, I think that's 20 minutes now for me. I'm open to any questions, if you want me to sort of shut up, I will.
No, Kuldip, I think that was useful. So we've had some questions come in. The first one that we've got is that since 2010 to 2020, police staff numbers in West Mercia have been cut by 170, and PCSOs, police community support officers, by 62.
Yeah.
And the question is, will you commit to restoring those numbers?
Yeah. Well, he claims that they haven't been cut because he's taking into account from 2016, John Campion is, but we're talking about for the last 10 years under the Conservative government on it. And when I was talking to him yesterday, or rather debating with him, and he said, oh, I got 93 more to come in. 93 are still on papers. They're not out on the street, Charlie, the police. And the other thing was, I knew he wanted to get them on a paper because the election was coming up, and he can say, see, more police officers, but they're not on the street. They're on the paper. They will be, hopefully, on it. So yes, Absolutely, I got to bring it up to the thing. Now you're going to turn around and say, well, hang on a minute, what about the funding of it on it? And it's like he's been wasting that kind of a money, 11 million on this, divorce bill or whatever it is. If he hasn't wasted that kind of a money somewhere else, we could have had, 200 police officers for 1 year for 11 million. My people tell me that, the guy who does these statistics. So just imagine, he just wasted it. And the other thing is, he doesn't go out and fight his corner or fight for his constituents in West Mercia. Whatever he's told by the government, the Tory government, he just swallows it and rolls over. And rather than going and saying, no, this is not. So this is what I will be doing. I was going around and, create havoc. I would go and knock on his door, or metaphorically kick his door down of the government, saying West Mercia needs more funding. And this is what it's for, to bring it down to level. I will promise to, your question, to increase the police officers, 170, and police CSO, community support officers, by 62, which has been cut. Actually, he doesn't want to talk about the CSOs, but they've been cut as well. So whoever got that information is a spot on. And that's what my researchers found out as well. Yes, if I'm there on May the 6th or after, I promise that I will restore those 171 police and the CSO, and will commit to number alongside the police officers. Yeah.
Good. One of the things that is of concern to us is about the distinction between police officers and police staff. And this question has come in saying, will you pledge to ensure that future budget setting for the force would seek to ensure that police staff roles would increase to support the increase in police officers? I don't know if you're aware, but in Warwickshire, they increased the number of police officers, but that was at the expense of 125 police staff posts. So the police officers came in, not onto the street, but into doing jobs that had been done by police staff and ended up sitting behind their desks. So that question is, will you protect the police staff posts and increase them at the same rate as police officers?
Okay. First of all, this information relates to Warwickshire, Warwickshire area. So they've probably done it, but I'm not too sure it has been done in West Mercia.
No, it's not been done here in West Mercia. They're just worried that it's on the cards.
I understand that, Charlie. Police staff turn them into police officer, and then you claim, oh well, there you go, I got another 50 or 20 police officers there. You're just trying to play one of those cat and mouse game, isn't it, with the police and with constituents. Yes, if I'm there, Charlie, I will look into it. I got to stop the police staff being turned into police officers. Police staff have their own jobs to do, and the police officers are different to the police. And I will promise that, but I have to look at that when I get there on the May the 6th or after. Yeah, that's a good question. And this is something that I have never come across. And this is something new information for me, Charles. Thank you for that, whoever wrote that down.
They've also, apparently there's a phrase that is used within West Mercia. I've not come across it before, but it's called OSRAP, OSRAP, which is replacing police staff with police officers. So it's something that John Campion and I think some of the senior police officers are hoping to do. So the next question, you've mentioned the fire service.
Now,
My understanding is that
yeah,
he's taken control of Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue, but not of Shropshire.
No. What it is, let me go back a little, because when I was at the Labour Party conference 2 years ago, I went to the stall of a fire brigade union, and I told them that I was the Labour PCC, and they said, "Oh, just a man from Shropshire." I said, "Yes, what is he?" He said, "The fire brigade union policy is to oppose being taken over by the police commissioners." And then they gave me some information, and he said what that they will be looking for by taking over the fire authority is to take some of the money from the fire authority and put it in the police on it, and perhaps get fire officers to do some police works as well. If I'm not quite sure what they're looking for. So if the police commissioner does take over, it means loss of jobs in a fire brigade, and also in turn, when you cut the jobs in a fire authority, you're putting people's lives at risk as well. So when there's a big incident, there is a one in Telford in my ward. You can look up there on it, and one of those recycling centers got caught fire, and there were about 20 fire brigades there, and so on. So in a situation like that, everybody was there. So absolutely right, and I this is one of my key pledge, along with building, mending fences with the neighboring police, whether it's a Tory or Labour or whatever it is. You got to work with them, Charlie. And this is my second pledge. And I have told everybody that I will have no intention of taking over the fire authority, because both fire authorities are well run effectively and efficiently, and they give value for money to the taxpayers. It is as simple as that. I'm not saying it. The auditors who audit our policies and our, the value for money, and they have said it. So yes, I've been sort of banging on about that for the last 2 years. I have no intentions, and I was hoping to have a meeting with Andrew Scatterwood, is it? Andrew?
Yeah.
I was hoping to have a meeting with him, and I did actually. I met him somewhere, and I said, "Is that still your policy, not to been taken over by it?" And he said, "Yes, that's what it is." So I did have a brief conversation with him in the last couple of months on it. So yes, no doubt about that. I just, if I'm there, I'll just concentrate on I don't want to expand my empire.
Good. Unlike John Campion.
Yeah.
At the moment, within West Mercia, the custody staff are privatised. They're run by a private company. Will you be looking to bring them back in-house and make them direct police employees?
Okay, custody staff privatised. Yeah, that's G4 and the Sercos, aren't they, of the world?
Yeah.
And
I forget which firm it is.
Is it? Yeah,
is it Noonan?
you can see. I mean, the Sercos are making billions from us these days with the testing of the COVID. So they must have somebody in the government right up the top to make all those billions and billions. Testing and tracing and testing and so on. At the present, I don't know. I'm not in favor of privatizing any services, but I have to look, how many of those custodies in West Mercia are run in-house, or how many has been run by outsourced by G4 or Serco or some company like that. But my values are keeping, even when I was a council leader, we try to keep all the service run from within the council rather than sort of, taking them out. So yes, I will look at that, but I don't know how much of them have been privatized and how much is in-house. you have to look at that. But I will give my commitment that I will look at it deeply and look at the value for money, and also keep, not to make anybody redundant. That's what I'm getting at, really, Charlie.
That's good. I'm just having a look. I'm just having a quick look to see if we've got any other questions coming in. And
does anybody know if John Campion has made any, non-police officers redundant, or is it all, because this is something that the union would have, inside information rather than sort of giving it to a political opponent. I'm not too sure if they have or not.
I don't. Right, I'm not aware that we've had any questions come in.
Okay.
It's a bit concerning. I'm not sure how many people are listening today, or whether you've answered most of their questions. Certainly the questions that have been sent in before, you've already answered. Yeah, those were your commitment to maintaining police staff numbers. One of the major questions that has been buzzing around the police staff.
The other thing is, I just wanted to highlight it, because when he came in, John Campion, in 2016, he had a surplus, a reserve of £65 million. And then what he has done is eaten all into it, rather than going to the government and saying, "Look, come on, I got to, get my numbers up for 2021 election." He's been reducing his reserve, and this year, when we passed the budget, he passed the budget, there's only 14 millions left. That is a dangerously low. A budget of West Mercia is £245 million. And of that, you've got to have something like between 50, 60, 70,000 million reserve. In God willing, nothing ever happens, but you never know if there is a big incident of somewhere or something, and then you got to put that reserve into it. And I could not believe, and he was even, picked up by the paper saying, "What, in the police, in the fire authority in Telford and Wrekin, our budget is £25 million, and this year our reserve is a 15 million." So just imagine that. And he wants to get his hands on that so he can use it for for whatever purposes. But I always noticed he never ever criticizes the government. He never ever said, "I have written it to my, the government, the Home Secretary, the Priti Patel, I want more funding from any." He never, every time we asked him, he said, "Well, we got the money and that's it, like on it." But sometimes, Charles, you got to fight for these things.
Just trying to. I'm not sure where.
I was in Redditch last Saturday, and I met a gentleman who was sort of like a little local hero. He was training kids. He had a small a training place there, and his name was Peter Martin, I think. And and the Labour Party took me there. Bill Barton, Bill from Redditch. and I was with him, all the other Labour lot. And he makes youngsters aware the danger of carrying knives. He goes into school and he tells them and stop carrying the knives or whatever, and he does. And he has a sort of a place where he pays £1,000 every 3 months a rent. Now, what John Campion, when he arrived there, he cut his £1,000. So, he can't pay for it. And I mean, come on, I thought, and this Peter Martin said, he said, well, will you, restore my, he said, I don't want to pay. I just want a rent for this place. The kids were having a little boxing, the weight and everything. And when I got there, there were about 10 kids there, and some of those with a special need. And, I couldn't believe it. And I said, he cut your £1,000 every 3 months. That's £4,000 a year, a rent of his place. And he was, and I said, wait a minute, John Campion needs somebody like that, sort of like anti-knife czar kind of a things so go into school in the community and get the kids to. But no, he said, no. He said, John, when I challenged him on the radio yesterday, he said, no, I can't afford that kind of money. It's only £1,000 every 3 months. And he wasted 11 million on a divorce for it. So look out for that guy in Redditch, Peter Martin. I had a paper in front of me, but I don't know where it's gone. But he's quite a character locally. And I spoke to a couple of the people there. They said, non-Labour one. And they said, oh, yeah, he looks after our youngsters, try to keep them, away from the bad habits and carrying knives.
Yeah. Well, it's where, I mean, if you can stop people carrying knives and committing the crime, then that actually is the best solution all round, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to sort of bore you. This is a Shropshire Star newspaper, and on here, this is last year's. It says violence crime up 18%, weapon possession up 44%, and knife crime up 45%. I couldn't believe it. And when I challenged him, he said, "Oh, I'm working on it." And the heading is "Nightmare of Knives Keep Getting Worse in West Mercia." So, you need people out there who are in the community, try to do good, and you gotta pay their rent or whatever it is, Charlie, so on. So I was quite impressed with him, actually. So if I get in, I will be bringing him in, and I want him to be my advisor on the anti-knife crime things. Like, you need these people with a local grassroots community knowledge, really. Otherwise, you never get anywhere. Right. Have you got any questions, or anybody wants to press a button and ask me live, or perhaps the other way?
I can't see any questions coming in. I don't know if you can see any questions that have come in.
No, I can only see you, Charlie.
Yeah.
I can't see anything on the, it's just you and me on the screen, actually, Charles.
That's all I.
Okay, so all those who are watching, I hope have a word with your friends and relatives, because the turnout, Charlie, in 2012, I got to go back. I used to be on the police authority of West Mercia, and when David Cameron tried to bring these police commissioners in, and we opposed it, even the Tories who were there on the authority, and Paul West was the chief constable. He said it wasn't a good idea, but Tories never listened. He brought in this system of police and crime commissioners elected. And then 2012, the turnout was, I think, 15%. That's all it was. And then we had like you said, Bill Longmore, who was was an independent, and then he stepped down, and then the Tories, well, he retired because he had a health issue as well, and then John Campion came in, and the turnout that in 16 was 18%. So
it's important that people get out and vote.
Yeah, because people are not aware of. In Telford, we haven't got an election. I mean, some of the other places, they have a council election or something. And when I'm sort of go out in the town centre giving a leaflet, they said, now we know why they sent us this, the polling cards. You know, people, I said, oh, yeah. He said, they were wondering, there was no parliamentary election in Telford. There's no council. Why have they sent us the polling card? And the people were saying, oh, yeah, now we know it. So I don't know what kind of a turnout we're going to get, but every little vote and every little friends and relatives and, you know, will help with a low turnout. And the other thing is, sometimes you have to get 50%. You have a choice. You say, my first choice is Labour, and a second choice, Tory or something. You have to get 50. Whoever wins got to get the 50% of the casted vote. And I think everybody probably knows that. But Bill Longmore didn't get a 50% in the first count. So the last person was dropped out and his second choices were counted, and then Bill won. And so on. So it's, when the people vote, I don't know how they're going to vote, but perhaps, being a funny kind of a, first choice, second choice, Labour Party chappie, myself can get through with the second choices. And most of my campaign is on social media. Actually, I'm putting a lot of money into it. And there's a young chappie called Harry Burke in Herefordshire. He specializes in these things. He's a Labour chappie. And so I'm glad I found him. And he just keep on pushing my video and my messages through. And he said, I think he said, over 100,000 people have got your message. And I met a couple of people in Telford as well. He said, I saw your video. I said, thank you very much. So this is what I'm up to. It's such a big area, 13 constituencies, from Telford all the way to Hereford and, the other side of it. And it's very, very difficult to go and do door knocking and leafletting.
That's a lot. It's a huge area, huge area.
It is huge. So
Kuldip, I've got a couple of questions that have come through. One is, how will you work with the new incoming Chief Constable?
Oh, yes. Actually, the Chief Constable is retiring in September. He has already made his announcement that last month that he will be going. So if I'm there, one of my first job will be to recruit a new Chief Constable. It's real baptism by the fire, really. You want to get on with your policies. You have to then, that will take a lot of time to find the right person to be the Chief Constable. Of course, I will find a Chief Constable if I'm there I will make sure I'll let him know what my policies are, and that he or she would be, is partial to my policy. So of course, he or she must know about that. And, so otherwise I wouldn't recruit he or she if they disagree with me. So I will. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad, Charlie. Some say it is a good. If I get there, I can start with a clean slate.
This one comes from the branch secretary of the UNISON police staff branch, and he says, will you meet with the branch executive to discuss matters pertaining to police staff at the earliest opportunity if elected?
Absolutely. I'm a union man. I have been for the last 40 odd years, even though I went into business, but I kept my union card with my, pay. And I believe in the union values. I will have a meeting with all the union, not just the Unisons and the others as well, to say how we can work together and take the police forward on it. And I am of the age when my father, when he came into this country in 1957, and it was the union who said equal pay to all the Commonwealth workers as well. There was a little, muttering here and there and saying, well, why are we paying them the same as that? So I always, doesn't matter what happened with the shop steward, you can agree or disagree, but it's the union principle and the values that I hold dear to me. I always have done so. And this is why I will be having a meeting with the union, but no sandwich and a beer, I'm afraid. Otherwise, they might say, well, wasting the money or something on it. Remember those days, Charlie, in number 10?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Beer and a sandwich.
I think it was wine, actually, when I went.
Well, didn't Harold Wilson once had a beer and sandwich for Jack Jones and all the others who came in, and that sort of became a bit of a news item on it. So,
no, I remember Gordon Brown had us in after, I can't remember when it was. Maybe it was in the run-up to the 2010 election. We had, I think it's wine and some rather nice, little something or other to eat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not enough to keep you.
Yeah.
Hunger
No,
pains.
no. I'm afraid these days, these things get out very quickly. So you just keep everything formal and then transparent. Make sure the public knows who you're meeting and what you're discussing and so on and so forth. Otherwise, the perception is the worst thing these days. If you don't if in elected office, you don't spend other people's. And the other thing was John Campion in the last 5 years, nearly 25% increase in the council tax. And one of my pledges, no more than the rate of inflation, which is about 2-3%. You have to put it up. But he last year, he put 10% up, well, 9 point something, 8 or something. So, again, he just doesn't go to the government. He just wants to, put the weight. I mean, the poor people, I'm a councillor, as you know, people pay the parish tax, the parish precept, town council, borough council, fire, police, and then all the others. And, the people say to me, why do you guys, all these, they are separately listed, but there's still things that the government, the council collects it. That why do you guys? I said, well, you got to pay for the police, you got to pay for the fire, you got to pay for the parish council, borough council. God knows, it's tax everywhere, Charles, these days. And I'm not in favor of putting the pressure on the council, on the people out there.
Good. Right. Well, we're almost coming to the end. I think. It's, I'm not sure what the time is. What's it? It's 1:45. I've got no further questions. We've had those few questions come in from those people who sent me some texts. Yeah, I think it's been useful. I hope people listening, UNISON members who've been listening, have found it useful. We wish you all the best, and hopefully UNISON members will get out and vote for you. And
thank you. Well, Katrina Gilman phoned me about 2 months ago about this meeting. She said, really, I said, Katrina, can you, so if she is listening somewhere in the wider world and on this, thank you very much for UNISON for getting in touch with me, and Katrina Gilman and yourself, Charlie, and hope to see you face to face in the regional office or somewhere. At the moment, we've been having these computers. Sometimes you've been doing it for 12 months. I'm longing to meet people face to face and shake hands, really.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, UNISON. Love you, and please vote for me.
I wish you all the best.
Bye now.
Thanks to everyone who's taken part, and hope you found it useful.